into another edition of Highlights. My name is Jim Strawn, host of the television program Highlights from the Heart of Our Community. It's brought to you through a collaboration between Jim Strawn and Company, HD Media, and the Media Center, along with our sponsor, Banker's Life. There's no life like the Banker's Life. If you're a regular viewer of the Highlights show, and we certainly hope that you are, you know how much we love to focus on those grassroots organizations, businesses, corporations, people, anything doing fantastic work, spectacular work to make our great state of West Virginia and our Kanawha Valley and our city of Charleston and all points in between a much better place to live, learn, work, and to play. And today, we're going to be talking with a young lady who's the airport director and CEO of the West Virginia International Yeager Airport. So you know this is going to be a very important show, and you know how much they dovetail with the quality of life, to live, learn, work, and play. Our airport is greatly needed. We're going to talk about that with the airport director, all the things that they're doing right now, all the things that we hope they have planned for the future. It really is an economic impact on the state of West Virginia and our community, but the quality of life is so needed with our Yeager Airport. So there's going to be lots of good insight coming your way, lots of information. Sit back, soak it all up, and I know you're going to think, wow, that was a really, really good show. I am so thrilled about this show, and again, I am just pumped to introduce you're the new.
I'm the new.
You're the new airport director and CEO, Dominique Ranieri.
That's right.
Dominique Ranieri, how are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me today.
We do appreciate you being on the Highlights television program. Let's talk a little bit. So you're pretty new into the new role, right?
3 months.
So you're 3 months in as the new airport director.
That's right.
And CEO of, I'm going to just shorten it to Yeager Airport.
That's fine.
We have the international name in there,
Yes.
but I just call it Yeager Airport.
We all know and love it by Yeager Airport.
Talk a little bit about your journey to West Virginia, to Charleston, West Virginia, your background so the audience can know. I met you like 3 or 4 months ago, and I thought, I don't really know who you are. So welcome to West Virginia, but talk a little bit about your background.
Thank you. I'm originally from South Florida, but I've been here in West Virginia for almost 12 years now.
Oh, wow.
I went to law school in a small town called Grundy, Virginia, at the Appalachian School of Law, and then a law firm based here in Charleston recruited me, and I fell in love with the area and the people right away. So I practiced law here in Charleston for a while, did some legal work for the airport about 6 years ago, and they recruited me to the airport. So I've been with the airport for over 5 years now, but in my current position for just over 3 months.
Was that your first little soiree into the aviation world when you started working with him as a client?
So actually, my whole family is kind of involved in aviation. My dad always...
So you got the bug early.
I did.
So you talk about this a little bit.
My dad always had his private pilot's license, and my mom was actually a Delta flight attendant before she had children. And then both of my sisters, who live in other places in the U.S., are avid aviation fans, and my older sister's actually a trained air traffic controller, married to an air traffic controller. So you could say it runs in the family.
I'm going to say you didn't have a choice.
You know, they knew it would find me eventually.
Yeah, so, well, congratulations on the
Thank
new
you.
role. Just off the top of your head, how do you think it's going? Are you enjoying it?
I am enjoying
Okay.
it. We're so fortunate at CRW to have an amazing team. So from day one, everyone that's been at the airport for a really long time has been great and has been so helpful and supportive of me in the new role.
It wasn't on my list of things to ask you, but when you mentioned team, I don't have any idea how many people work at Yeager Airport.
So for the Airport Authority, which operates the airport,
Okay.
we have 88 full-time employees, and if you count the part-time, we're over 100 employees.
Very nice. It has a long and rich history, the airport does.
It does.
We're celebrating our 75th anniversary this year.
That's right.
2022.
That's right. 75 years of
I know
CRW.
I know you're a young pup, but what do you know about the history of Yeager Airport?
Quite a bit,
do you?
actually. I really enjoy history, and
Okay.
I enjoy the history of our facility, and it's really important to know what has happened over the years so that we can plan for the future. The facility is 75 years old. It's been added on to quite a bit. It is, one of the oldest air traffic control towers in the system that's still operating.
Did not know that.
Yes, fun fact.
Yeah.
But that's why we're looking towards the future, because our facility we're very proud of is 75 years old. There are things that we can make better and improve so that we're prepared for the future of aviation and air service to our state.
Of course, we are going to talk about the future, but before we talk about the future, as Dominique said, we got to look into our past. We have a little short 1 minute about kind of a little video that might kind of depict and illustrate the history of Yeager Airport. We're going to take a look at that right now.
For 75 years, we've broken barriers. In 1912, it started as being described as the biggest event ever held in West Virginia, the first time a plane would fly over the Kanawha Valley. It was a sight worth seeing, and area leaders got to work, knowing the future was in aviation. In 1947, the Kanawha Airport opened its doors to blue skies. The airport saw almost 100,000 passengers in 1 year, and that number has kept growing. Over the next 75 years, CRW continued to stay ahead of the curve by serving the needs of travelers and keeping pace with advances in aviation. All of this as we come off one of our most challenging years. We didn't let the pandemic define us. We moved ahead with building a flight school, rebranding, changing our name to fit the needs of a growing airport, while opening a new U.S. Customs and Border Protection facility. We didn't stop because we are building out our future around you, our customers, and not airplanes. Let us be your welcome home, your connection, or your see you later for the next 75 years.
And 75 years, as I mentioned earlier, Dominique, quite a rich tradition, rich history. One of the things that caught me with that video was early in the video, and the terrain in West Virginia, and it was no different right here in the Kanawha Valley. How in the world did that site get selected? How did we get an airport on top of that mountain? Do you know anything about that? I don't know.
So actually, because we are an airport authority, it's a combination of a few different counties. But when it first started, it was Kanawha County and the city of Charleston coming together. They selected that site in association with the Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA. Okay. And of course, it was a large earth-moving project, which we're very familiar with here in West Virginia. So actually, the original airport site involved a valley fill of 3 different mountaintops.
Wow, so cool. It also mentioned in that video, we opened up, we had about 100,000 passengers, which quite frankly, back in the 40s and 50s, sounds like a lot. I did a little bit of research. In 2019, we were well over 400,000, closer to 500,000 passengers. Are we seeing that as a tick up? Is that a trend? Is that leveling off? How are we doing with our passengers and our services and our numbers?
So we are really hoping to get back to those 2019 numbers quickly. Of course, with COVID, travel was greatly affected. We're still about 10 to 17% down in our passenger numbers from those 2019 numbers, but we're hoping to see a very quick recovery.
You've mentioned a couple of times about this authority that operates CRW. What authority is that, and what is their jurisdiction and the partnership with the authority and you?
Yes,
and you guys.
So the airport authority, it's formed under legislation here in the state. So it's a combination of our contiguous counties, and it's the Central West Virginia Regional Airport Authority. And what the FAA, or the Federal Aviation Administration, calls that is the airport sponsor. So they're responsible for making sure that those grants that come from the federal side get used properly, and that we're operating the airport in accordance with all of the rules and regulations.
Very good. Now, I was up at the Charleston Air Alliance Business After Hours. It was really cool. We had it in a hangar out there. It looked like I came into the new, was it the Marshall University Flight School? Am I saying that correctly?
It's the Marshall University Bill No Flight School.
Bill No Flight School.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
Talk to the audience about that. That's pretty new. I know it's pretty exciting collaboration and partnership with Marshall, but talk about that program.
It's an amazing program, and it
really
is much needed, because all you hear about is pilot shortages. So we knew that that was going to be a problem that affected service here at CRW. So we actually went out to Marshall and said, would you be interested in a flight program? We have a site available for you. And of course, at that time, Dr. Gilbert was like, yes, let's do it. So we actually started construction on that flight school during COVID, and we had a ribbon cutting on the facility 323 days later. So we built that facility in just under a year in partnership with Marshall, and now they've accepted their second class of students.
That was my next question. So
yes.
We're seeing students.
Oh.
They're going through the program.
The demand is huge.
So when they graduate, what will they have? what will their credential be?
They will have a 4-year degree in professional flight, and they will have quite a bank of hours, which is what the airlines and other entities that are hiring pilots look at. Is how many hours
behind, not a steering wheel, but what do you call that? In the cockpit?
In the cockpit, in the cockpit, yep,
okay.
in an aircraft in the air.
Okay.
So they'll come out with a bank of hours and this wonderful education in professional flight. The school is also expanding its offerings to not just professional pilots, but whether it's aerospace engineering, they're looking at that, and Marshall's also looking at a degree for folks like myself that want to work at airports in airport management.
So the aviation program at Marshall, with Marshall University, you may graduate not to be a pilot. You may graduate to be an administrator. You may graduate to work on, maybe is there mechanical schools as well?
Yes,
To
there's
be
a mechanical.
to work on the planes. About how many students are we? I mean, I know it's early, but we're in our second year. How many was in the first year and how many was in our second year?
So the first year was just under 30, and now they're up
nice.
to over 60.
Oh, that's a lot more than, I thought it was going to be like 8 or 9 or 10 or 12 or.
Quite a few.
That's nice.
And they're already
That's
to the
exciting.
point that they need to build a second hangar. So that's
Wow.
going to be something that we're starting this
Where
summer.
are the students coming from? Is it rural? Is it Appalachia? Is it from all over?
Initially, their students were local. Actually, there's a couple of George Washington High School graduates
nice.
graduates that are in the program, and now it's starting to expand. I think just yesterday, Nancy Ritter, the director of the school, was telling me that they're getting applications from students as far as Wisconsin, Minnesota. So everyone is hearing about how amazing the program is, and they're coming to West Virginia.
That's a very neat economic and educational partnership, collaboration. I didn't know all the details.
Yes.
I'm so glad you're on the show.
I'm very excited to be
We're
here.
talking to Dominique Ranieri, and she is the new West Virginia International Yeager Airport Director and CEO. Another thing that I recently noticed, not only the Marshall University collaboration, but this Customs and Border Protection. Do I call that a protection program? Is it a building? How do you describe that?
So it's our port of entry.
Port of entry.
Yes, but it's Customs and Border Protection. We've always had an agent at CRW that was able to receive incoming folks from whether it's Canada or another country that are flying in. Previously, he did not have a facility. He just had an office at the airport, and he would have to go out to the ramp and clear these aircraft. So he really needed a facility not just for his safety, but to continue operating as the state's port of entry. So we completed that building. It's co-located at the fixed base operation at the airport, which is Capital Jet Center.
Okay.
And he can clear flights coming into the U.S. with up to 29 passengers. We get some larger aircraft coming in, and it's really exciting that people can clear customs right here in Charleston.
Talk in layman's terms why that's so important for our community, and I'm sure it's important for businesses and corporations that are doing international work. Is that the deal?
That's right. So otherwise people would have to stop at another airport to clear customs before they could come to West Virginia. We also support what is known as the foreign trade zone.
Okay.
So because we have a port of entry, there are certain tax benefits for entities within so many miles of the airport.
Wow. I'm going to keep saying this. I'm glad you're on our show.
Well, thank you.
I'm learning a lot. I'm sure the audience is as well. You mentioned the Capital Jet Center.
Yes.
I call that the old Executive Air, so people know where that is.
That's right.
So the Capital Jet Center, you talked about the Customs and Border Protection being there. What else is going on there? What is that all about? Is it the airport operates it with the authority, but what is that in compared to like the commercial airlines? It's not at the main terminal.
That's right. It's considered the general aviation area of
Gotcha.
the airport, and that
You have all the answers.
I try. That fixed base operation supports any private aircraft or business aircraft that would be flying into the airport, not the commercial flights. Though they do fuel the commercial airlines. That operation handles all of the fueling on the field, some de-icing, and then any other aviation services that anybody in the general aviation community and the flight school could need.
I think folks watching this go, Jim, ask her about air service. Jim, ask her about airlines. Jim, how do we get... You hear that a lot, don't you?
I do, and I'm glad you asked.
So I'm just going to ask you, what's the deal? Why can't we get this? Why do we need this? What happens there? You just can't wiggle your nose and get an airline, can you?
I
Dominique?
really wish that I had that magic power.
Give me what happens in that world with you.
So it's really interesting, and I truly didn't understand it until I started working for the airport here. But I like to explain it to people that think of the airport as a very large parking garage. The airport authority has to make sure that the roads and the facility are always in working order and that they're safe, but the cars or the airplanes come and go as they please. We do get copies of their schedules, but we don't dictate the time that they come and go. We don't dictate where they come from and where they fly to. We do a lot of communicating with the airlines, updating them on the economic development
Say that
efforts.
again. You don't have anything to do with when they come, when they go, whether they're on time, whether they're delayed. That's not your thing. That's not your thing.
We just make sure the
And
facility
sometimes you're
is
in the middle
there.
and you're the bad cop, they're the good cop sort of thing.
Sometimes.
Okay, keep
But,
going, I'm sorry.
but we communicate directly with the airlines, and we do tell them what we're hearing from the community as far as what flights we need to see to support businesses that are locating here in West Virginia. And now we're working closely with the Charleston Area Alliance. They actually formed an air service working group made up of community members, and they're actually fundraising so that we can do minimum revenue guarantees to bring in new flights. Those minimum revenue guarantees are essentially just a pot of money that's available to a new airline or a new route to make sure that they can cover their operating costs while the new route starts up.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. So right now, some of our efforts of what we're trying to attract, Texas service, we had Houston for a very long time. There was a downturn in that activity and United pulled it, but we've talked to both United and American about starting service back to Houston as well as Dallas-Fort Worth.
Dominique, why would an airline fly direct from Yeager to Houston? Why would an airline fly direct from Yeager to Fort Lauderdale and then pull that flight out and then bring it back? Is it all driven on numbers? Is it just numbers?
It's numbers.
It's just numbers, okay.
As they like to say, it's people in seats.
People, yeah.
So when they see people not using the flight, they can take that asset or that aircraft and crew and put it elsewhere where they're going to make money by filling it up. So that's why we always say our new campaign for our 75th anniversary is it starts at home.
Okay, right.
It's very important to use your local airports. With driving outside of the state to catch flights elsewhere, it takes away the service that we would have here and our ability to attract new service.
Just like any other business, I mean, they're a national business, they're an international business, they're an international airline. They have to make it profitable, and if it's not, then we have to understand that. But many of us go, but I need to get to Myrtle Beach, I need to get to Lauderdale,
I know.
I need to get that. So it is numbers driven.
And use it while we have it. Again, with the Houston service and the Dallas service, we're seeing a lot of business relationship between here and Texas, of course, with our oil and gas and chemical industries. So that helps convince the airlines to start service. And then, of course, you and I, who might not have business dealings in Texas, get the benefit of having that route to connect westward or connect to South America or just to visit Texas.
As many of our viewers know this, I operate an Airbnb, the Strawn Chalet, and we just had a guest for the past 8 days, and as this show is being taped, we just dropped him off at the West Virginia International Yeager Airport because he is from the UK. He is from England. He's close to Manchester. He came over to visit his daughter, attending a local university. She plays football, soccer. We call it soccer. They call it football. And he was delightful, and he was great. But that's pretty neat that we can get you to England. You got it. You start at home.
Yes.
Starts at home.
Starts at home.
And he went down to Charlotte, and he's going across the pond.
Perfect.
So it is an international airport, isn't it?
We can,
It's a new name for you guys, right?
That's right. For our 75th anniversary, and because of the addition of that customs facility, we were able to add international to our name. And we also wanted to add West Virginia to the name so that people outside of West Virginia can find us, especially with the addition of our new national park. We're seeing a lot more visitors from out of state coming here for the first time and even out of the country.
Well, we know West Virginia is very important internationally. We know that West Virginia is recognizable through the Country Road song. We just saw them all singing it in Germany at the NFL game. And when my guest was here, he said anytime I mentioned I was going to West Virginia, they started singing Country Road. So we are West Virginia.
That's right.
I love the name. We are international. I love the Yeager. We have such a history of aviation from Chuck Yeager.
Yes.
Who unfortunately just we lost him about a year or so
Yes.
ago. But I'm glad we kept his name
Of
in there.
course,
as
of course. We honor his legacy in every way at the airport.
Hey, we're having a great conversation with Dominique Ranieri. She is the airport director and CEO. We're going to continue this conversation. Now it gets real exciting as we talk about the future of the West Virginia International Yeager Airport. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break, thank our collaborating partners, thank our sponsors, and after that, I will be right back with Dominique Ranieri, the CEO of the West Virginia International Yeager Airport. And I'll be right back. And we'd like to take this opportunity to thank our supporters of the television program. Highlights from the Heart of Our Community is brought to you through a collaboration between Jim Strawn and Company, the Media Center, and HD Media. And our newest sponsor, special thanks to Bankers Life. There's no life like the Bankers Life. For over 140 years, Bankers Life has provided financial security to their clients and policyholders. During that same time, Bankers Life has helped change the lives of many of their associates personally, professionally, and financially. Questions? Do you have questions regarding Medicare and Social Security? Give them a call, 304-757-4134. Or if you're interested in a free review with a licensed agent or looking for a new career in the financial industry, contact Dennis Harmonson. Dennis.Harmonson, Harmison, at bankerslife.com. There's no life like the Banker's Life. And just like that, I am back. We're having a great conversation with Dominique Ranieri, the airport director at Yeager Airport. She is the CEO as well. If you'd like to get a hold of her or have some questions that maybe I haven't asked her, there's the information on the screen. The telephone number is 304-344-8033. They have a really cool, insightful website, YeagerAirport.com, YeagerAirport.com. Lots of FAQs on there if I haven't asked Dominic some of those questions. So you can go there, call them. They have 88 people that can help you answer some of those questions. Now, we talked earlier, Dominic, about we talked about the history. You've been around for 75 years. We kind of teased that there's some exciting expansion and future projects. I'm just going to kind of sit the ball on the tee and ask you, what's going on with the future of Yeager Airport? What are you guys planning?
All sorts of things.
All sorts of things, I
It's
figured.
quite busy there.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, as an airport, we need to make sure that we're ready for the future of aviation. So not just what's serving the airport today, but being ready with our facility to support the aircraft that are coming later. So if you've flown recently, you might notice that some of our routes have larger aircraft on them. And that's the trend. There will be bigger and bigger airlines and aircraft.
What are we looking at here on the screen?
You're looking at a rendering of our proposed terminal project. So as you see there, the larger aircraft parked at those gates are likely the future of service at CRW. Those regional aircraft are retiring. So we want to make sure that we're ready for that. And that means a newer facility.
Okay. I know there's a timeline for this, and we'll put that timeline up after we look at another rendition of the new terminal proposed, right?
Proposed, yes.
Proposed. So let's take a look at the timeline. We're probably in the first third of the whole planning process. What is that called? What is that called? The process and timeline. It is.
It is. It's an environmental impact statement is what we're doing right now.
Okay.
So we've proposed not only that terminal project, but also some runway safety area improvements. A runway safety area is 1,000 feet of grass at either end of the runway. So if you've heard from your friends or family coming to visit, oh my gosh, we land right on top of a mountain.
Is that the proposed new runway?
That would be the proposed runway safety area project. So what you're seeing here in purple would be the first phase. That gets us to 70,000 feet and those safety, or 7,000 feet and those safety areas. And then phase 2 for later in the future would get us to 8,000 feet of runway. The blue area would be where we would put some fill to extend that area. And that purple would be borrow area where we would get the fill. The thing to note here that this is Coonskin Park. It will impact some of Coonskin Park, but that purple area will return to the park for development of additional recreational sites. And I want to reiterate that anything we impact in the park, we will have to mitigate. So that means that if we can't replace it at that location, somewhere nearby and in the county, we will have to provide new recreational sites that are equal to or better what we affected. And that is coming with the support of some federal money, because most airport projects are funded at 90% federal, 10% local. And that's a really great opportunity for West Virginia and, of course, Kanawha County to increase our recreational offerings while we improve the airport for the future.
And as you could see from that timeline, this is the comment gathering period.
Yes, we're currently in the comment gathering period through November 29th.
You have opportunity right now to comment on the expansion project and the future projects at Yeager Airport. We'll put a couple of those up on the screen, but you can email. Well, there's some of the comment opportunities right now. You can email right there, comments at Yeager Airport, EIS.com. So you can email right to that, give your comments in there. You can go to the website, Yeager Airport, EIS.com. There'll be an opportunity there for a comment. And then you can also just write an old-fashioned letter and mail it up to the Federal Aviation Administration up in New York. Mr. Brooks will take that and he'll understand that. Of course, he's with the environmental program manager, so this is a very environmental comment period and what you're doing with the future.
This is the most stringent environmental process that the FAA does, and it is a 2-year process, Jim. So like I said, we're just in the very beginning of it, but they're going to look at every possible effect the project has before they will approve it. So that's why I keep saying proposed project, because it could change quite a bit by the time they're done with their environmental review.
You mentioned it, I think I may have mentioned it, we're collecting the comments until November the 29th. Are we having public hearings anytime soon? I think
we did. We actually just finished those. We had them at the beginning of the month. But of course, if anyone has any questions about the project or missed those public meetings, please feel free to contact us at the airport, and we're happy to give you the highlights and answer any questions. But that website, YeagerAirportEIS.com, contains a lot of information about the process that the FAA is going through.
Very, very good. We, Dominique, you mentioned earlier in the program about when the old Kanawha Airport or Yeager Airport, it was called Kanawha Airport.
It was Kanawha Airport,
Kanawha Airport, 1947. Before it was built, we had to have landfill to build it up to get that flat runway, right?
That's right.
So you just mentioned again, to extend the runway for the future projects, we would have to fill it in again, and that's where the Coonskin area comes in. What advantage will we have as a community with this expansion of the airport?
So of course, standard safety areas, so it gets rid of that conception that we're landing on top of a mountain.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, the extension of the runway that comes with that helps us make those flights in and out of our airport more profitable. Right now, a lot of our aircraft take what they call weight penalties. So if you've ever been in the gate area and they're asking for volunteers, and then you get on the plane and you notice there's still a few empty seats, that's because the aircraft was overweight for being able to take off or land at our airport. With that runway extension in those safety areas, we don't have to worry about that, and all of the flights will be profitable, and thus we'll be able to get more flights.
I didn't pay much attention. I looked at the timeline, and you said it might take a couple years. What's the entire timeline for the next 5 to 10, and what kind of stamp would you like to put on the Yeager Airport in the next decade?
So of course, first and foremost, the thing we think about every single day is our customers. And we have a lot of different customers, not just passengers getting on aircraft. The airlines are our customers. The rental car providers at the airport are our customers. TSA is one of our customers, as well as the FAA. So we always want to make sure that we're enhancing the customer experience. And so we're going to do some things in our existing terminal over the next couple of years to make sure it's as comfortable as possible for our current passengers. And then we're going to focus again on this, getting through this environmental impact statement process and working towards the future of our airport and being ready for different aircraft. And not just thinking 5 or 10 years, but even past that, we're currently working to install an electric vertical takeoff and landing charging station for electric flying vehicles that could come to our airport.
I was getting ready to ask you, what's up with me getting in I call it a Jetson car.
Yes.
Is it a Jetson car?
Almost.
Almost. Right? So what? So that's still on the table.
It is. So that is actually a real.
I want one of those.
It's a trend coming. You know, all of the airlines are looking towards the future of what aviation will be, so it's most sustainable. And there are already aircraft manufacturers working on these electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. It's a very fancy way of saying electric flying cars. Exactly.
Is it really like it's small? Like maybe 2, 3, 4, 6 people would get in up there at the what do you call it now? The Capital Jet Center.
That's right.
You get up there at the Capital Jet Center, you get in it, you go up, you go over to Lewisburg, you land, you get up, you go over to Clarksburg, you land, you get up, you go over to Pittsburgh, you land,
That's right.
go to D.C., you're there in whatever.
Exactly.
Like 45 minutes. Is that what this is?
That's what this is.
I'm ready.
And it's, like I said, it's all electric. So
I'm
the
ready.
operational cost is pretty low. And Marshall University is actually going to start an aviation battery research center. So we're attracting those to our state.
Not to get real technical, but
Yeah.
you said it 3 times, so I better comment on it's electric.
It's electric.
So no petro, no gas.
No.
So how does, I mean, the technology is beyond me, so how does that work?
So again, just like a electric
Electric
vehicle,
car.
yes,
Just juice it up, battery.
and they have to be charged. And so we're going to make sure we have that charging station right here at CRW, so that as soon as those aircraft are approved to fly, we can, have them here as well.
I love your enthusiasm and passion, and I can see it coming right through how excited you are. Again, not just 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, the next 50 years.
That's right.
You're setting the trend for the next 50 years like they did for us back in 47.
That's
That was
right.
a big deal. And this is a big deal. One more question. Let's kind of finish up on the economic value that this airport has for our community. Not only the 88 employees, but just what does having an airport mean economically for our region, our state, our Kanawha Valley? I know it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. It's very hard to attract new economic development to a state that doesn't have air service and an airport. So not only does the airport have an economic impact of over $200 million a year just with what happens at CRW, but the entire air infrastructure of the state has over a $1.6 billion impact on the state every year. And that was a recent study done by the Aeronautics Commission at the state, and they're all available to look at online for every airport in the state. So we have 7 commercial and 17 general aviation airports in our state, and it's so important that all of those continue and prosper and plan for the future so that our state is a viable location for new businesses and growth of our businesses and bringing people in to live here as well.
And that's why these future projects are so important. It'll just continue to enhance our economic impact, our economic driver, having the airport. I know we took a look at a couple of the artist renditions of some of the terminals, but I want to take a look at what some of these artist renditions might look like inside. So this is pretty neat looking. Looks like a major airport to me.
That's what we're going for. So the trends in airports terminals, of course, are bright, open, and what we have here in West Virginia are all of our beautiful views. So we want to make sure that anyone flying through can admire our gorgeous scenery. We are looking at a dual level arrivals and departures, just like you'd see at Atlanta or Charlotte. And then you can see that there's a glass wall on the other side. Those folks are walking towards it. That will be an outside terrace that even if you're not flying out, you can come and watch airplanes take off and land. And
Like when you were a child.
That's right.
You could go up there for a picnic.
Exactly.
And people love to do that, by the way. Kids
They
love
do.
to watch airplanes come in and take off.
That's right.
It's
And
a
that's
child thing.
That's how
My
you
wife
get
grew up in the
aviation in your
aviation
blood.
world. Yeah, my wife grew up in the aviation world, and she grew up because her daddy was a pilot, and they would go and just, there's daddy taking off.
Exactly.
You ready to go home? No, I want to watch some other planes come in. Let's watch other planes go out.
That's
And
right.
It gets in your blood.
It does, and
It's
that's
in your
what we
blood.
want.
I love it being in your blood. I love it being in your blood because you're great for the Kanawha Valley, you're great for Charleston, you're great for West Virginia. Dominique Ranieri, we're glad you were on our show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Do you have a parting shot, something you want the audience to know that I haven't asked you about the airport?
Just to remember to fly CRW. That's the 3-letter.
It starts at home.
That's right. It starts at home, but remember CRW, and that's how you book tickets out of our airport and use your local airport. We really appreciate it.
What a great show. Thank you very much. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
If I can do anything for you, let me know, okay?
Of course.
That is all the time we have for this edition of Highlights. As I promised at the top of the show, how insightful and informative was that? such a great show. We're so delighted that Dominique carved out a few minutes to be with us today. And again, that is all the time we have on this edition of Highlights, as always brought to you through a collaboration between Jim Strawn and Company, the Media Center, and HD Media, and of course our title sponsor, Banker's Life. There's no life like the Banker's Life. We'll see you at Yeager Airport soon, and we'll see you next time right here on Highlights. Take care now.